Today's video is all about everyone's favorite topic, active focus. Hi, I'm Jem, an End Myopia student. If you haven't heard about End Myopia, it is a vision improvement method. It's for people who are short-sighted, also known as nearsighted or myopic, and I am using it to get back to 20/20 eyesight and life without glasses. It's all based on science, and I'll pop some links down below in the description for you to check out if you would like to know more. I've just turned off the lights behind me because they're pretty distracting. You may already know, if you've been following me for any length of time, that I already made a video about active focus where I talk about how I found active focus and how I would describe it. This video is about active focus using Jake Steiner's End Myopia method. If you haven't seen it already, I will link it here. So why am I making another video about active focus? Well, it's because it has developed for me over time. So how I'm experiencing active focus now is a little bit different from how I was experiencing active focus at the beginning. I won't repeat everything I said in the first video, you can go and check that out for yourself, but at the time of that video, I was experiencing active focus as looking at things actively rather than passively. Not in a lazy way, but with a bit more intention. To stop and look at text, for example, and say, am I really focusing my vision on the letters, or am I just casually glancing my eyes across it and taking it in? To actually hone in on what you're seeing and to make sure that you are using your best vision in order to see it. So I still do that. That is exactly how I still do active focus, and I stand by that description. The interesting thing for me that has developed over the past few months is what happens when I do that. The result of doing that. So at the beginning, I could only clear up a small amount of blur doing this. So if that's what you're doing, I think that is fantastic. But my active focus ability has definitely increased. It's gotten stronger. So now I can use my active focus to intentionally look and clear up things that are much further away. I've told you before about the car that is normally parked across the road, where I can look at the car's hubcaps and try and clear them up. And I do that during my breaks from my computer and while I am sitting here looking at my windows, eating my meals. The amount of blur that I see on the lines of those hubcaps let me know how my ciliary is tracking, because I know how clear they can be. So if I look at them and they're quite blurry and then I continue to look at them for a couple of minutes, maybe not even, they will clear up. So I can use them to determine whether my ciliary is locked up or whether it's released. And I can also look at them to active focus because they don't give me 100% clarity when I look at them way over there, not in my normalized. I'm also able to use active focus on my Snellen and see quite a difference between when I'm active focusing and when I'm not. And I'm also using active focus when I go for walks. I'm looking at street signs primarily. I definitely prefer looking at things with text on them because that lets me know whether I am actually clearing the blur. I find sometimes just looking at the great big image that is the world around me, I can't always tell if I'm actually getting clarity. It's like a lot of people have reported with watching TV and doing active focus. You can think you're seeing the TV clearly, but if you put the subtitles on, suddenly you realize, actually you're not. So there's something about text where it just becomes a lot more obvious whether or not we are actually clearing the blur. And at the beginning, active focusing while you're moving is quite hard, but don't let that put you off. Still try, just look at it with your best vision. Do what that End Myopia student said that Jake made a video about of describing the blur. Like, just make sure you're looking at things on purpose, even if you can't quote unquote active focus when you're moving. So I found my active focus has gotten more powerful at a larger distance. I found that I can active focus more effectively while I'm moving than I could before. And there's one specific experience of active focus that I really do want to talk about a little bit, and that is when I got my new normalized last time, which was at this point about 6 weeks ago. I found that when I dropped to my most recent pair of normalized, it introduced quite a large amount of blur compared to what I had become used to. When I active focused with this extra amount of blur, it wasn't just that same experience of like merging the images just a bit. It was a bit more of a mind-bending experience where things that when I was just looking casually at them were quite blurry, and when I looked at them on purpose, Not squinting though, don't do that. They came into focus and it felt a lot like those magic eye puzzles. I know I mentioned that in my previous video about how sometimes it felt like that, but I can refine it a bit more by saying I have that experience mainly when there is extra blur. So after the first week, when I did active focus intentionally and was paying attention to it, it didn't create this magic eye puzzle effect anymore. It was only for that first week when I'd introduced extra blur. By the end of that first week, a lot of that blur had already cleared up. In fact, I don't get a lot of blur with my normalized anymore, and it's only been 6 weeks, but what I am still getting is double vision. So I'm not ready to reduce. I still have to wait for the double vision to clear up, but the blur, that cleared up quite a lot very quickly. But while I had all that blur, active focusing was really cool. It did feel almost like a superpower, the way that I could change what I was seeing significantly just by trying. And when I cleared it up, like those magic eye puzzle sensations, I had this incredible sense of depth. There was definitely like a 3D feeling to it. Except unlike with those magic eye puzzles, there was no sense of tension in my eyes. I mean, maybe you don't get tension in your eyes when you do the 3D eye puzzles. I know I do. If I do them for too long, I have to stop. I have to have a break because I get a headache. With active focus, it wasn't like that. I mean, I know that I do those 3D puzzles a bit weirdly anyway, because I actually see them backwards. Like the picture is meant to pop out at you, but I see it go back into the page. So I see those 3D puzzles in reverse. And I don't know why. I don't know if that's an eye thing or a brain thing. So similar feelings when I do active focus of, whoa, wow, that's different, and depth, wow. But instead of that tension that I feel when I do magic eye puzzles, I felt a sense of relaxation, a sense of my eye being fully engaged. It wasn't coming from the front of my eye. It wasn't to do with my muscles here squinting. It didn't even feel like it was to do with any ciliary muscles at the front of my eye. Like, I actually don't know 100% what the ciliary muscle movement would feel like, but you've probably experienced it with your vision when you're trying to focus. Sometimes it can feel like you're trying to be a camera and adjust that front part of your eye, like try and adjust your pupil, which is not quite what you're doing, but you know, it feels very much at the front of your eye where your lens is, where your ciliary muscles are. This didn't. The front of my eye might have been involved. I haven't shrunk myself and climbed inside my own eyeballs and watched it happen. That's a weird, paradoxical visual. But I very much had the sensation that I was looking at the world from the back of my eye, not the front. The back of my eye felt very engaged. I felt like I had hopped back and suddenly things were clear. So I don't know what is actually happening. There are lots of theories. You can hop on the Meow forum and find discussions where people are talking about these ideas, and you know what? I don't know. And unless there's a study done on it specifically, we can only guess. But it's very specific sensation and it has quite an interesting effect visually. But, and I want to emphasize this is not how I started. And this is not something I've done on purpose. This is just from looking intentionally, as I described in my first active focus video. And these extra aspects have developed organically from teaching my eye that I want it to look on purpose and to just make sure that I'm using my best vision. These things have occurred by themselves. I maintain that looking on purpose and using your best vision is active focus. I don't suggest that you try and do these things that I'm describing, and then if you don't manage, you feel like you haven't got active focus, because I don't think that they are necessarily the only definition of active focus. I don't think that it's something that I could have done on command at the beginning. It's just interesting how as you practice, your eyes get better and better at doing it. It's like building muscle and building skill. So I'm at this point now where active focus is a lot more powerful than it used to be. Now, it's still not a magical miracle or anything. It just can do more than it could at the beginning. But don't let that confuse you. If that is not where you're up to, do not despair. Really, active focus can be basic. It can be a very humble, unassuming activity. If you haven't got active focus yet, please do check out my previous active focus video. In it, I do talk about this thing that I do where I would sit outside in my little garden and not wear any glasses and just stare into the blur, and then things would clear up just for a second or two when my eyes were watering. Staring around in my little garden, without my glasses on, listening to an audiobook, and my eyes started super watering and the filmy tear layer was playing with my focus, and then whoomp, I could read that this watery eye staring, things far away, becoming quite clear even though I don't have glasses on. That's what end myopia people are calling clear flashes. Now, I was saying that was clear flashes. Another end myopia student, Rhiannon, suggests that is actually not, that clear flashes are something else again. So I still haven't gotten anything else that I could call clear flashes, but who knows what I'll discover along the journey as my myopia gets lower and lower. So whatever that was, I've stopped doing it. Not because it wasn't fun and amazing and really cool, but because I haven't had time to just sit there and stare much lately. I've been far more interested when I have time in going for walks, during which I wear my normalized and just active focus at things along the way. So I haven't continued to bother spending my time sitting in blur like that, just because I'm more interested in improving my eyesight as part of my actual life. I don't want this to take tons of time out of my life because I don't have tons of time to put towards this, and that is the beauty of end myopia. You don't have to put aside tons of time for eye exercises. You just build it into your all the time, everyday vision experience. So I'd love to hear from you what your experience of active focus is, how it's developed over time perhaps, or if you haven't got it yet, what you're doing to try and find it, or what you're experiencing that you think may be active focus but you're not sure. Like, tell me everything. I am totally keen to chat with everyone. I try and answer every comment. And while you're down there, please also like and subscribe. It helps YouTube know that this video is worth watching, and also hit that bell button so that YouTube notifies you when I release a new video. I post every Thursday, so I will see you next week. Bye! It helps the algorithm know that yes, that. The lights behind me are really annoying. I need to turn them off. They're so kind of. Be a bit more direct, Jem. So bad. So, looking at things more intentionally, there's someone coming out the front door. Oh gosh. Do you stop and look at no. No. Clear up the blur. No. No. No, not even. So, when you're... words! They're really hard today. Do what Jake says. Is that normalized?